But keep in mind, this is an ad that I didn't approve, I did not produce, and as far as I can tell, has barely run.
Okay, all right. So he didn't produce it. So apparently, Pontius Pilate, not the Savior, but Pontius Pilate, who showed up yesterday, washed his hands of it. Except, here's what he said about presidential surrogates when George Bush was in office.
I have to say that the leadership has to begin not just with the president, but with his surrogates. I mean, the president is a very affable man. Anybody who interacts with him, you know, he generally doesn't have harsh words to say about folks. But his political operatives and the vice president may make a speech on the same day that the president appears, ripping the opposition to shreds, accusing them of being unpatriotic. So the question, I think, is whether the president is willing to rein in those on his staff or in his control. If he does that and he focuses on the job that needs to be done for the American people, then I think we could see some progress.
Oh, okay. Okay, I get it. So in other words, what he's saying is the buck stops with you. The buck stops with him, not him, because that would be the buck stops here. As for the ad barely running, that was probably the reason he held the surprise news conference. The campaign got so much heat for the pathetic ad, the super PAC was forced to pull it, and Obama had to come out and distance himself from it. Sadly, they still haven't distanced themselves from that or the other Romney attack lies. And these are flat-out, full-frontal lies. The ones he did approve, the ones he did produce, or the ones from his own speeches on the campaign trail where he's supposedly talking about substantive issues, creating jobs. Really? May I ask if this sounds like I'm being positive, I'm talking about substantive issues, I'm not taking down my competitor, I'm just talking about job creation?
You know, today it was reported in the Washington Post that the companies his firm owned were pioneers in the outsourcing of American jobs to places like China and India. Pioneers. Let me tell you, Tampa, we do not need an outsourcing pioneer in the Oval Office. We need a president who will fight for American jobs and fight for American manufacturing.
Okay,
that's what my plan will do.
Right.
That's why I'm running for a second term as president of the United States.
All right. So he didn't really get to his plan. We got to the smear, and then he threw the word jobs in there. Actually, the Washington Post that he just quoted called the accusations a lie. The Washington Post. Didn't he just quote them? And again, as with the cancer ad, Romney wasn't even part of Bain Capital when the supposed outsource occurred. The Washington Post couldn't even find evidence Bain outsourced jobs after Romney left. In fact, in every case where the Obama camp has accused Romney of firing people indiscriminately, outsourcing jobs, or cold-heartedly getting rid of men who needed insurance for their sick wives, well, who weren't sick until 6 or 7 years after they left the company. In every case, Romney wasn't even working at Bain. In every case. And speaking of surrogates, there's also the low-life charge from Harry Reid, who said he got a phone call from somebody and...
So the word's out that he hasn't paid any taxes for 10 years. Let him prove that he has paid taxes.
That's unbelievable. Barack has stood by and allowed the surrogates like Harry Reid to make ludicrous charges against Mitt Romney without a shred of evidence. And they actually cemented the tax evasion illusion by saying this.
And when it comes to releasing taxes, that's a precedent that was set decades ago, including by Governor Romney's father. And for us to say that it makes sense to release your tax returns, as I did, as John McCain did, as Bill Clinton did, as the two President Bushes did, I don't think is in any way out of bounds. I think.
No, I'm sorry. To me, that's not just misleading or dishonest. It's lying. He's a liar. I know people don't want to hear that about the president, but he is. He can't tell the truth. Because if he does tell the truth, he distances himself from you. Obama mentioned John McCain following precedent and releasing his tax returns. Mitt Romney just released as much of his returns as John McCain did. Just because Obama and Harry Reid want him to release more, he didn't have to release any. He doesn't have to release any more. But did you see what he just did? John McCain did it. Well, yes, and so did Mitt Romney. The exact same amount as John McCain. So the precedent, including his father's, has been followed. The American people have seen how much he makes, how much he gives to charity, which, by the way, is about 15%. And yet, Barack Obama yesterday made this claim.
If you look at the overall trajectory of our campaign and the ads that I've approved and are produced by my campaign, you'll see that we point out sharp differences between the candidates, but we don't go out of bounds.
We don't go out of bounds. I'm holding an ad that Mitt Romney was responsible for a woman's death. Okay. I hate to see what he considers out of bounds.